everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm so happy to be back after taking some time off to enjoy the holidays and practice some well-needed self-care. Today, I'm featuring a multi-layer stamp set from Kitchen Sink Stamps. Remember, this is also a giveaway hop, open to American and Canadian residents. Please see my description box to see how to enter this giveaway for a $25 gift certificate to the Kitchen Sink Stamps online store. So now let's get started on today's project. Today I'm working with the multi-step let's say that 10 times fast. Multi-step Seaside Seagull stamp set. These stamps come numbered and with a handy layering guide to make recreating the images so much simpler. I chose this in honor of my grandpa, and I'll get to the story a bit later in the video. I decided that the first thing I wanted to create with this stamp set is a piece of artwork that I could hang on my family picture wall. I am by no means an artist, so my goal was to keep it as simple as possible, but to still have something I'd be proud to display in my home. The focal point is this truly amazing stamp set. When I first stamped it out, I was floored. I have worked with multi-step stamps many times in the past, but they've always had little tricks, etc. These layered beautifully right off the bat. They were incredibly well aligned, and the whole picture took me less than a half an hour in real time to create. I'm going to use a piece of Ranger watercolor cardstock to create this panel. It's a great surface for what I'm going to be doing, as one side has the typical watercolor bumps and the other side is smooth. This is perfect for stamping, so I'll be working on the smooth side. Also in preparation, I searched seagulls on a post in Pinterest and found this image to use for inspiration. The first thing I'll be stamping are the posts. To replicate the inspiration photo, I need to stamp the image so that the bottom doesn't appear. To do this, I place my paper in the top corner of my MISTI to give me room to place the stamp off the panel. I then placed a small scrap underneath to protect my MISTI work surface from being stamped on. I used Altenew inks because of their great layering color lineups. I started with sand dunes for the lightest color, then used the next to deepest color in that set, Rocky Shore, for the second layer. As you can see, the layers just fit right on top of each other. Not much guesswork here. To create a bit more depth, I switched to a cold gray set of inks and stamped the third layer in gray denim and the fourth and final layer in cloudy night. I added 3 or 4 layers of this last color for extra definition. Now check it out. Isn't this amazing? A total wow factor. The next step was to stamp out the seagull with a more warm gray set of inks. I decided not to go in the order that was suggested in the layering guide because I wanted my seagull to be more white in the upper body. To do so, I needed a guide of where to stamp the lightest color. So I started with lava rock, the darkest color, and the fourth layer. I then moved back to the second stamp, which I stamped in evening gray, and then placed the first stamp in place, ready to stamp. I inked it up with Morning Frost and stamped it off on a scratch paper before stamping onto my panel. I repeated this twice until I had the desired effect. Basically, the suggestion of the outline of the bird. Seagulls have great significance to me because in my last conversation with my ailing grandpa, he said he would come back as a seagull, so whenever I see a seagull, it could be him. It was his last gift to me. He was gone a week later. Mark my words, whenever I see a seagull, whether a picture, video, or at the beach, I think of him still 40-some years later. With my stamping done, it's time to clean up and get ready to create my watercolor scene to step this stamped image up a notch. I have Altenew ink in Dewdrop and Moss for my background, a spray bottle full of water to add water to my ink for coloring, and a brush. To begin, I apply some dewdrop ink to my mat and spray it with some water. The idea while coloring this is to start with very light random strokes covering the panel. I'm careful not to let the brush and the panel get too wet, as if it gets on the stamped image, I'll need to start all over again. The nice thing about these random strokes is that they can represent water or sky. The white that shows through can be wispy clouds or gentle waves. Next, I pick a point behind the posts and I draw a line with the blue ink, creating a shoreline as if it were for our islands. Now I could just use this blue and layer it over and over to create a monochromatic scene as in my inspiration photo, but I decided to step out of my comfort zone and create some land that suggests an island in the background. It's always fun to try new things, especially when the consequences aren't so extreme if I fail. To create land, I take the moss ink, smush it onto my mat, and add some water. Using the shoreline I painted as a guide, I move up from there, making images that I felt looked like hills or mountains in the distance. I then very carefully mirrored these images in the area below, which represents the water, to add even more dimension to my pictures. I was very careful when doing this and made sure that the color was much lighter than the mountains actually were. I added some darker water over the reflections and touched up my islands until I felt good about it, and then set it aside to dry before adding the final touch. I think every video needs to have an oops, and in this one I forgot to turn on the camera. Let me explain what you missed. The set of stamps comes with 2 smaller images, each with 2 seagulls flying. Well, I really wanted 1 seagull flying, so I took the larger image and cut the 2 seagulls apart. I took the smaller seagull and using the lava rock ink, I stamped it in the sky and then stamped it again in the water area before re-inking. This gave a light image that looks somewhat like a reflection in the water, yet again adding to the dimension of the piece. I'll finish this off with a stamp of the smaller 2 birds and autograph at the bottom, and then this picture is done, ready for framing or to put on a card. I hope you're inspired to try something new and out of your comfort zone and to create more than just cards with your stamps. It's such a fun way to create. Don't forget to check out the contest details in the description below. If you have any comments or questions, don't forget to leave them in the comments below. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you as a subscriber, so feel free to hit the subscriber button and click the notifications bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Thank you so much again for joining me today. See you next time.